Boom. I'm actually on time for a change, lads. On time for a change. So, oh boy, what a weekend. What a weekend we had. Joyce takes an L. Takes the L against Zhang. We've got Garcia versus Davis this weekend. Cannot wait for that fight. Let's go. Let the chat build up a little bit in terms of the fallout, the aftermath. I mean, I just was thinking, where does Joyce go from here? And I have a video. I haven't started recording it yet, but I have it planned up on what I think the best kind of courses for Joyce, the best routes for him to go down would be. Because I think that look, a loss like that, damaging, and it was damaging. But there's no ifs or buts. It was not a good loss. The damages. There's never a good loss, but a loss like that was damaging. But there is routes he can go down. There is ways he can still make some money from that. You never know. Put himself back into contention. You never know. In terms of Zhang, I mean, I was thinking to myself, right? Although Zhang brings a lot of money, well, he brings a lot of numbers more so from China. So if he was to do a show over there, you can imagine the viewing figures it would do, the amount of tickets it would do. But would he possibly fall into a who needs you kind of category? And I say that because you look at Zhilei Zhang and you think, as a fighter, it's like, will I get a massive payday for fighting him? Probably not. And this guy's flipping dangerous, very dangerous. So we could potentially be looking at one of them. I hope I'm wrong about that. Because I think Zhang has a lot to, even at 40, he's a lot to give. And that's the thing about the heavyweight division. You have heavyweights who may not be in their physical prime or athletic prime, but they've really only started developing now in their late 30s, whereas that's unheard of for pretty much all other weights. If you had a welterweight who's a few days away from his 40th birthday, you'd be saying, not a chance he's going to be able to take on a contender. He's going to get annihilated. But in the heavyweight division, it's so different. It's so different in that aspect. So, evening to Ben. How are you, my friend? I hope you're keeping well. Oh, you were at the fight. You were saying that. I was at the fight. Didn't get a sense of just how bad the eye was. How far were you from ringside? I know the Copper Box is not a particularly massive arena, so there's always a decent seat in the Copper Box. It's hard to say. I've been ringside and I've had the sweat fly off fighters and hit me, but there was never really any swellings at the fights I was at. You get more of a sense when you're at the fights of how hard the shots are. You certainly do that. But in terms of swellings, I can't remember being at a fight live where there was a big swelling. So it's hard to say if I can say, oh yeah, but I can imagine if you're there, probably being at a distance, it might not look as, because obviously on TV, the camera is zooming right in on it. So you get a proper look and you're like, whoa, that's bad. And if you're ringside, you have the luxury of having the monitors there as well. So, well, if you're commentating, I should say. So you can always say that. Big up to Ali Drew. First, as always. If only that was the real Ali Drew. And sub to 7. Joe Stunner, how are you, my friend? How are you? Congratulations. I seen you hit 1,500 subs there the weekend. Delighted for you, mate. 2K next. And then so on and so forth. 3K. Do you reckon we could get you up to... Do you reckon we can get 3K by the end of the year? Do you reckon you could do that, mate? 3K by the end of the year? 1,500. Put it like this, right? I hit 10K the very last day of January. So for all intents and purposes, February. We're not even in May yet. And I'm already 11,260. I think I'm just shy of 60 subs. So I'm already getting through the 11s like that. So you never know, man. You get the news coming in, you keep it consistent, and you never know. Big up to LD Phoenix. And hello to the chat, even to Reese, even G-Man, a big up the chat. And obviously, you got a big up Joe Stunner as well. My man, how are you? I hope you're all good, mate. I hope you're all good. Joyce deserves the Usyk fight more than Dubois. I think he should fight White next. You're reading my mind, mate, in terms of who I think he should fight next. I was thinking about that. So obviously, Dylan White was there. Because I'm assuming they obviously envisioned Joyce coming through it. And they were talking about making that fight next. Now, regardless win or lose, I think that makes a lot of sense. because Dylan White name value is still there, and he does pose an element of danger. But you would imagine Joyce would come through that. But stylistically, both guys like to push the action. Dylan White can box a little bit, as can Joyce, but primarily Dylan White likes to punch on the front foot. And Joyce, although he can box, I mean, in that fight against Zhang, he was just trying to get up close and let the shots go. So I reckon that would actually be a fun little scrap as well. Dylan White, obviously, a very, very good puncher. 17th. Big up. SM03. What's good, G, man? It's very good, man. It's very, very, very good. We're doing well, man. We're doing well. We're going live tonight, and I don't know if it's going to be a mad long one, though. Like, for me, long is an hour. I think we might cut this at 40. Depends. Depends on the interaction, but I might have some stuff to do a little bit later, so I might cut this at 40. It just kind of depends how we go. We see. Big up to Stu Ungar. Thought. I personally think Joe should take the rematch. That's an interesting one. What can he do different in the rematch, though? When you look at a fight and you see it go one way, and it was pretty much one-sided, in Zhilei Zhang's favor. Apart from maybe the third round you could give to Joyce, and maybe the fifth round, pretty much you could give Zhilei Zhang everything else. And the third round, really, I wouldn't have given to Joyce personally, but I could make a case for him. If you've been comprehensively beaten like that, and it was the fact that he couldn't make the necessary adjustments. I mean, it wasn't exactly like, obviously Zhilei Zhang was doing very well on the outside. He was letting the left hand go. But Joyce's adjustments to that left hand were non-existent. From the first round, he was getting hit with that left hand, and he never seemed to be able to adjust. Do you think someone of Joyce's standard, he would be able to adjust a bit better? Well, the show was actually meant to be yesterday, and then I had to go out with my mate, and I set it up for today. So we're doing this today. I'm doing a different live tomorrow. Don't think of any other lives planned for the rest of the week, but we'll see. And obviously, by the way, April 22nd, although technically 23rd, because it's going to be after midnight, we're watching along to Ryan versus Tank. Of course, we're doing that. We have to. Ryan Tank, we have to do a watch along for that. Of course. Did you see I haven't seen it yet. He was hitting, there's a good chance the Saudi tournament with AJ Fury, Usyk Wilder could go ahead. I seen a few people on Element put links to that, but I haven't actually watched the interview. I'm not long home myself, so I haven't had a chance to really catch up on it. Even G-Man, the fight was like a car crash in slow motion. Will you be watching the Kieran Malloy card in Galway on Friday? Going to be on TG4. I didn't know they were going to televise. I thought it would be on IFL or something like that. Yeah, I'll watch it. 100%. I would have went to it, but I've got a trip with my friends coming up in June, and we're going away for a few days. So I didn't really fancy going. And as well as that, like, I wanted to do stuff over the weekend, so I didn't fancy a day trip to Galway, because I would have had to go straight after work to Galway, which on a Friday afternoon is not ideal, and stay over in Galway. Now, Galway's lovely, but I thought, best to just watch it. So it's on terrestrial TV here. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, like, April, we've had 3 cards on in Ireland, which is unheard of. I mean, to put it in context, 2019, which was a normal year, there was a grand total of 2 shows in Ireland all year. 2. And that's not including Belfast. I don't include that. But in the actual Republic, 2 shows. There's already been 3 in a month. It's good going. Yeah, I'll watch that. Hopefully, Conlon puts on more shows in Ireland after that. Hopefully, it's a success. Fury won't want to fight Zhang at all. I'd be picking Fury over Zhang. I would. There's a danger there, but I'd be picking Fury over him. I know this is a big if, but I wonder how the rest of the fight would have gone. It's a big if. I tend to think Joyce would have warmed his way into it, and I think that the pace he was setting would have eventually troubled Zhang. But we can never know. We can only suspect at the end of the day he let his eye get mashed up, and the referee had no choice but to stop it. I do wonder, although Zhang didn't seem like, even after 6 rounds, the pace didn't seem to affect him. which I thought it really would, because I've been seeing Zhang in the fight he had against Hrgovic, where he did slow it down. And obviously against Jerry Forrest, apparently he had some kind of kidney issue, so that's fair enough. But he did slow down a good bit against Hrgovic, and I thought something similar. It wasn't like that fight was fought at a mad, frantic pace either. You could see the eye reddening, sorry, after the first couple of punches in the fight. Yeah, I mean, he is a big, big puncher, Zhilei Zhang. And I think Joyce, one thing I think Joyce has let go to his head is people telling him how good his chin is. And he's got a good chin, don't get me wrong. But thinking that this chin is iron, it's granite, and that you could take anything, eventually there will come a puncher who can put a dent in it. It happens to everyone, almost everyone. And I think against Zhang, it was a case of, oh crap, I put so much stock in having this iron chin. This guy is hurting me. And I got a super chat there, so I got to read that first. Do you think Zhang looks old or out of his prime? Well, thank you for the £10, Adam, by the way. I appreciate that. Well, of course, he's not going to be in his physical prime. I mean, that's just, he's not physically going to be in his physical athletic prime. He's a couple of days away from 40. I think he looks, for someone who is 40, I mean, he really doesn't show it in terms of his movement. I mean, he's not the slowest heavyweight in the world. His footwork is pretty good. His long-range boxing is pretty good. Zhilei Zhang is deceiving. He flatters to deceive is the best way to describe it, because you look at him, like, look, I've done it as well. I've said it before. I looked at Joyce, I looked at the fight before they fought, obviously, against Hrgovic, and I thought, well, Zhang's not looked particularly excuse me, amazing. You know, he flatters to deceive, and I think that's the kind of way a lot of people viewed him. And following on from the Hrgovic fight, you kind of look and you say, was it Hrgovic underperforming or Zhang overperforming? And you got to say it was probably an element of both, really. I mean, Hrgovic didn't look out of sorts. He definitely did. Obviously, his father just passed away. But we obviously saw how good Zhang is. And he goes in there with Joyce, and look what he does. I mean, he was the better fighter. There's no ifs or buts, or you could say, well, Joyce was coming into it. Joyce was losing handily. In slow motion as the rounds went on. I was thinking, sure. Yeah, I was thinking, at the start, I was kind of thinking, okay, he's having a rough patch, but he's going to come back into it. But the longer it went on, you just became so apparent the right was on the wall. SG Man, think a lot of the result was more down to bad decisions by Salas and bad luck on Joe's part. Well, you can say bad luck. I mean, like, it's his own fault he let his eye get smashed up. So my question would be, was how and who were they sparring and training? Because he seems so underprepared for the southpaw angles. It's crazy. It really had me scratching my head thinking, did they even train with lefties? Because he seems to just have no answer for that left hand. Just seems to have no answer for it. Leads me to believe that he was getting hit with right hands the whole way during camp, which is no use. I'm still the king of ripped jeans. Have no fear. I'm still the king. I do love my ripped jeans. 3K by the end of the year is too much of a stretch, though. I'll settle for 2. It's not, though. It's not, though. Think of it like this, right? Think of it like this, right? If you aim for 3K, even if you don't hit it, chances are you'll get close to it. Whereas if you aim for just 2K, it's only 500 more. You want to set, like, for me, I'd love to hit. I would. I'd love to hit maybe 18K by the end of the year. If I don't get it and I get like 15, that's still pretty good. But if I said I want 13K by the end of the year, I probably will hit it. It's like, but that's a low goal, you know. I think last year I got like 3.5K subs in a year. So it's been growing every year. Like, first year it was just 1,000. Second year was, I think, a little over 1,000. And then last year was 3.5 or more, actually. I think it was more anyway. I can't remember fully, but it was a lot. Big up, G. Hope you're well. We'd be coming up north for Lopez Conlon. Do you know what, right? If it had been on a different day, I would have. I haven't been up to Belfast in a while, in a couple of years, and I like Belfast. But the fact that it's clashing with Coley versus Billum Smith and Lara versus Wood 2, I want to do a watch along for Lara Wood 2 because the first fight was entertaining and I want to watch the rematch. And I think that, like, they really kind of cocked up there with the dates because I would say, between a Conlon and a Coley's fights, you're not exactly guaranteed fireworks. Whereas you're probably guaranteed fireworks in the DAZN card because that first fight was good. And it'd be interesting to see if Lee Wood makes adjustments, if he doesn't make the same mistakes. So, had it been maybe a week after June the 3rd, there's nothing on June the 3rd, is there? Don't think so. Had it been maybe a week after, I probably would have went up to it because it's only Belfast is a little over an hour's drive. It's probably an hour and 15 if you really go quick from where I live. Swords, the motorway going up north is literally at your doorstep. So it wouldn't take me long to get up there. And I like Belfast. It's a nice town. I probably would almost prefer Dublin, really, because it's really nice. I think it's just nicer than Dublin in many ways. You can't take those metal shots to the face that Joyce takes and it not make a dent at some point. I can't believe Salas has not improved his defense. It's interesting because Joe Joyce is trained with trainers. He's trained with a lot of different trainers. He's trained with Salas. He's trained with Sanchez. He's trained with Shane McGuigan. McGuigan fighters tend to be okay defensively, but Salas fighters, they're hitting and miss. Sanchez, although funny enough, I thought Joyce looked the best under Sanchez. But his fighters very seldom tend to have good defense, a good stoppage for once. It's bad really when you think about it like this, that Foster's reputation has hit all the way to China. Because even Team Zhang were like, oh, we don't want him refereeing. Joyce was stung in the first round and from a left, he doesn't move his head. No, he doesn't. He can't rely on that chin. It's not always going to be there to bail him out. Go G-Man, top boss, he's got the bag. Yep, your boy's got the bag, hasn't he? I don't think Joe has time on his side. He's 37 years old. So he doesn't. He's going to want to get a move on. Joyce doesn't seem that mad on a rematch. I think he'll struggle with the adjustments, big adjustments. Yeah, he needs to. Because I think if he goes into a rematch, does the same thing, he's just going to get back bet again. It's just a case of will the ice swell up this time. It was just, for me, it was just poor. Just poor. I question if they fought any southpaws or trained with any southpaws because he had no answer the minute the left hand started going. People shocked by Joyce getting buzzed are the same people who were shocked when Mayweather got caught. It gets blown out of proportion. Zhang is a massive man. Zhang is a massive puncher. He's one of the best in the division, punching-wise. No, I haven't. I have to have a watch. I don't subscribe. See, I'm not subscribed to IFL. So I only kind of just click on now and again when a video gets recommended. Zhang very underrated. I did not see him doing that to Joyce, especially after the Forest fight. Just thought the Hrgovic fight was a bad night for Hrgovic. Well, I think it was a bit of both. I think Hrgovic didn't perform as good as he can, and obviously Zhang, was a revelation. I thought Moses Atuma looked class. I thought he did too. It's remarkable to me, right, that people would look at Atuma's performance. They won't look at any of the positives. They won't look at any of the things he was doing in there from a technical point of view, from the ring IQ, speed. They'll just say, oh, that guy was pudgy and he's lost 12 times. You couldn't stop him. Oh, you're no good. It's like, what? What? Seriously? Wow. Moses Atuma went in there with a guy who's been in there with some decent fighters over long distances, not 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 10-rounders, and 8-rounders, and was never stopped. What makes you think Moses Atuma was going to stop? This is a guy who clearly knows how to survive. And you could be the biggest one-punch puncher in the world. But if a guy who really knows how to survive, be negative, and just get through 6 rounds, they'll get through it. They will. Doesn't matter how big a puncher you are, they'll get through it. So look at what Atuma was doing from a technical point of view in there. He's a very, very good fighter. Was going on about Joyce isn't elite level, never was, and he says he's no place calling Joshua out. Well, Joyce versus Joshua would have been a fun fight. And, Joyce, was Joe Parker not elite level? Because Joe Joyce beat the crap out of him, and Joe Parker, former world champion, fought Anthony Joshua. So you're saying he makes people underestimate him. I guess the eye test would be the best way to describe it. When you look at Zhilei Zhang, you look at his fight against Eric Cross. To the eye test, you're just thinking, this guy's so beatable. So beatable. And then all of a sudden, he actually turns it on and you're like, interesting. This guy is better than I thought. Eddie said Joyce hasn't fought an elite level heavyweight, which is true, I suppose. I wouldn't consider Joe Parker an elite level heavyweight, to be fair, nor would I consider Brian Jennings, certainly not Daniel Dubois. And he goes in there against Zhang. That's a fair comment, to be fair. I think Jerry Forrest fight Zhang was ill. Yeah, I think he apparently had a kidney issue or something like that. Yeah, he probably will. He probably will. Is it just me? And I'm not saying this now he's lost, but Joyce. But Joyce is one of the slowest heavyweights around. I wouldn't argue Chisora's quicker. Hell no. But he's definitely not fast. Apart from Zhang. Who was the was it Lenroy Thomas? And that was a blowout for and actually funny enough, if it wasn't Lenroy Thomas, because he is a southpaw. Joyce got caught by the left hand very early in that fight as well, but it's Lenroy Thomas, so didn't really do much. There you go, mate. Where'd that cough come from? There you go, mate. 3K by Christmas. There you go, mate. You have to think ahead. And you have to set big targets. Like, I'd love to hit 20K next year. Early next year. I'd flipping love it. I've got other targets as well, but that's one of them. I'd flipping love to see a big 20. He was stepping right way too much. Straight into Zhang's backhand, should move the other way more. But then again, Joyce looks so awkward moving to the left. Yeah, he's not the most fleet-footed. Big up, man. How are you, mate? Hope you're keeping well. You were at the Joyce fight, I seen. How did you find it? I've never been into the cop box. It looks great. I've been past it a few times. Never been inside it. And really imagine how hard it would be to find a southpaw who hits like Zhang. Very few. Fighting Zhang is a very unique, massive puncher. Massive puncher. Can Joe adapt and alter his style? I don't think so. I think he's probably too long in the tooth now. Just because Joyce was up doesn't mean he was able to think. Joyce might have had a plan that went out the way when his face got smashed up. He could have had been on autopilot for most of the fight. I think though, when you think of it like this, right? If you have a plan and something like that happens, you kind of have to think on the fly. You have to think on the fly. Pat Brown, criminal profiler, man, big up. I seen that video Joe Stun did. It's good. Do you think Fury will fight in the summer? I've seen, was it Warren, one of the Warrens, was it George Warren, who said that apparently he's going to be out on the July 22nd. Now, against who, we don't know. Probably Andy Ruiz in Wembley. Let's see. Let's see if he is. At the end of the day, we obviously know I want undisputed. I think the majority of people here want undisputed. But we can't keep banging our head against the brick wall. If they're going to move on for the time being, they're going to move on. Who is he going to fight? Andy Ruiz, would I accept it? Yeah. I mean, I'll watch it. If Usyk, if he fights Dubois, I mean, damn, that's not going to go well for Dubois. Swordsman here too. Yes, big up. Big up the Swords boys. Pity because Conor Lopez was the first to take that date, and it's going to be sold out. Good card, plenty of Irish prospects on it. That's one thing you got to give Conlon credit for. He signs a lot of Irish fighters, and he puts them all on his undercards. You've got to give him credit for that he's getting talent out there. And like, people would say, like, oh, he doesn't sign every Irish prospect. Well, that's because a lot of them are garbage. I think Conlon has a good eye for talent, and I'm talking about Mick and Jamie. They both run it. They seem to sign the Irish prospects you actually believe in. There's a lot of Irish fighters out there who'd be like, I'm a prospect. It's like, really, are you? Okay, you went life and death with that journeyman who's got 50-odd losses and 30 stoppage losses. I'm still a prospect, be world champion. All right, let's see how that goes. But they hire the ones you actually have a bit of faith in. Not there's much faith in them, but a little bit. Eddie was saying the Selbies don't want any of them to fight this summer, so it'll be interesting to see. Oh, really? I did think someone left it on the Element group where they said that Tyson Fury refuted the claims Eddie Hearn was making about the Saudis having a heavyweight tournament as such ready to go. That was good. Joe doing the podcast on Pat's channel. I watched that myself. It was very good. What do you see next for Shakur Stevenson? Honestly, I don't want to see any of the division beating him even after coming up. You don't see any of them in the division. I'd like to see him target the winner of Haney Lopez. Or not Haley Lopez, what am I talking about? Haley Lopez. I'd love to see Haley fight Teofimo Lopez. Haley Loma. I'd love to see him fight the winner of Haney Loma. I think it's going to be Devin Haney, but you never know. I'd love to see him target the winner of that. I would. I'd love that. Would it have made much of a difference? You know, I think people put too much stock in. Like, if you add more weight on and you lose, it's a terrible idea. If you take weight off and you lose, it's a terrible idea. I just think that Zhang had his number that fight. I don't think he could have done anything that would have changed it. I'll have no choice but to watch Lara Wood too. Otherwise, a Cody, Chris Smith putting me to sleep. Yeah, I don't like it. Like, I don't like the way promoters do that. Like, here you have 3 good shows. 3 shows that any week you will be happy to watch. Conor Lopez, very good fight. I'm happy to watch it. Chris Smith, Lawrence Okoli. Although Lawrence Okoli, it can be, but I'll still watch it. And then obviously Lara Wood. Obviously, the first fight was good. I've no doubt the second fight will be. All great shows that I would happily watch week by week by week. But all on the same night, it's just like, no, I'm going to have to go back and forth. And it's a nightmare. I don't like it when they do that. Hopefully they can work it in such a way. Like, maybe they'll put Conlon's fights on early in the day. Maybe they'll do a 4 o'clock ring walk. Hopefully, I don't know, but I really hope they find something out. It went under the radar, but Denzel Bentley. I don't understand. It's a good point there. I don't understand why you put some of these fights so early on the card, does Warren, because that really should have been co-main, in my opinion. And Denzel Bentley, great win over Kieran Smith. Kieran Smith's a very, very good fighter. And Denzel Bentley, I think that he is going from strength to strength to strength. And it's ironic, Felix Cash, that fight is just such an anomaly. It just seems that way because Cash has done nothing. He looked shocking since then, and Bentley's looked amazing. It's really weird. It's really strange. I haven't heard anything about it. Knocking him out in the amateurs. Well, Atoma never lost in the amateurs that I'm aware of, anyway. So I don't know about that. I'll have to check. Malik Scott spoke about Frank Sanchez versus Washington happening. I think Sanchez outboxing. Now Sanchez will stop him, I reckon. But really, Washington's still sticking around. All right. Interesting. I thought Hearn was keeping him. I really did. It's going to be interesting. Frank Warren still learning from the master. He learned that from Don King in the 90s. Always have options no matter what. I would normally say don't take the rematch, regroup, and develop. In this case, I don't think Joyce has the time. Yeah, I don't think he does either. But I don't know if I'd be going and trying to actually get that Dylan White fight. Chisora begging Eddie Hearn to get him out again. Yeah, like that. I was like, what? You were going to get absolutely flattened against Zhang. Hopefully not. I did see that. Hopefully not. Hopefully they don't do that. Oh, God, no. Atelma is an 18-year-old kid having his third fight fighting grown men who've never been stopped. He suffered an injury yet didn't lose 10 seconds of a round. Give the boy a break. It's remarkable to me the way there are these journeymen who are just known survivors, who can just survive. And when a prospect goes in with them, and of course the journeyman, who that's his job, survives, suddenly that prospect is garbage. In spite of the fact that he's literally won every minute of every round, never looked remotely in trouble, and showed a lot of potential, showed a lot of good. It's very often you'll see a fighter of Moses Atuma's kind of, what would you say, pedigree or kind of up and coming, and they resort to just one shot at a time. They really almost just fall into a pattern with the journeyman. Atelma didn't do that. He tried shifting things up and showing his skill set. I think he's tremendous, and I do think he's going to do wonders. And I mean, when I seen him, it was just in the amateurs. I was just like, when you watch some of the amateurs and you're thinking, okay, because I get told like, oh, check this guy out. You look at them and you're like, they look all right. And think when I seen him, I was just like, wow. He was 17 at the time. I was like, wow, this kid is crazy. Yeah, he doesn't go to as many shows. I don't know why. I think he's getting the process. I think he's going to pass that over to his boys sooner or later. Any Queensbury show I've been to, he's been there, funny enough. I've seen him in all his glory and all his anger. He just looks always. There's something I've noticed about it. Whenever I've seen Warren in person, he always looks angry. He just doesn't look like a happy guy. He always just looks like someone took a piss in his cornflakes or something. He always has that look on his face. Yeah, man. There's no real episode he's done that's not good, if you know what I mean. There's nothing that's not good on there. Even if you go back to like 2017, 2018, they're good episodes there. No, I don't think he beats Fury. Yeah, I think he beats him. I probably would still favour Dylan White over Otto Verlaine, but I wouldn't be. I'd be kind of like, oh, will he, won't he? Do you know, sort of way. Like I wouldn't be putting money on Dylan White to win. Put it like that. But I'd say I would lean towards him to win, but I wouldn't be, guaranteeing it, if you know what I mean. I wouldn't be guaranteeing that. Hell no. In terms of the building, we got 65 in the building and only 36 likes. People, you gotta help your boy out and smash the like button. I suspect Haney will beat Loma. However, I think Shakur will stop Haney. Styles make fights. I think Shakur beat him as well. I think Shakur is special. Would he stop him? I don't know if I'd go that far, mate. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I certainly think he beat him on points. Oh, Zhilei Zhang, definitely. The only thing I would say about Zhang Fury has shown a tendency in the past when he's fought southpaws to be not the hardest fighter to hit with the southpaw left. And that's one thing. That is one thing you got to take into consideration. There's a real danger that Fury loses. True, you already talked about how Fury looks slow and punches less these days. Do you think that levels more things? It's possible. It's certainly possible, and certainly, I would say Zhilei Zhang is a better fighter than what's that other guy, Otto Verlaine. I think he's got a little bit more to his game. Otto Verlaine, yeah, he's got a bit of speed, no real power, but that's really it. Like, he's not physically the most imposing character. I think he's better than people give him credit for, but do I think he's a world beater? Probably not, no. I think Zhilei Zhang would stand a better chance against Fury, but I wouldn't be picking him. The judge who had Joyce up should be sacked. We see it too often. Like, for me, I can't accept someone saying to me, oh, well, it's incompetence. No. Why is it that it's always the case that in these fights, and obviously it didn't go to the scorecards, but when we see these dodgy scorecards, it's always the home fighter. 99% of the time, it's always the home fighter. So if you listen to Rob Smith, right, and Rob Smith's he's a real character. But Rob Smith will be like, well, it's subjective, these boxing fans, they don't realize judges are subjective. Well, if you're telling me it's subjective, surely there should be more of it should be more one way, that way, one way, that way. There should be more of I'm trying to find the words. Can't come to my mind, slip my mind. But it should be kind of 50-50. So if we're seeing some weird scorecards, we might see a weird scorecard for the away fighter, but we never see that. It's always the A side fighter. There's no discrepancy between, this fighter and this fighter. It's always like, if there's a bad scorecard, it's the home fighter. It's always the home fighter. Whether it be boxer, Queensbury, whether it be any country in the goddamn world. Because we see this in France. I mean, France is probably the worst. I mean, people want to talk about the UK. France, it's like Tony Yoka, look at his last two fights. And you tell me a split decision and a majority decision where he got battered in both fights. Do you think it's time for Frank Sanchez? Yeah, I thought it was time for him in 2021. On the undercard as a travesty. I think Jack Catterall's brought it on himself, to be honest with you. No. That's a bad way of saying it. Jack Catterall is a good fighter, a very good fighter, but he is not I would put Jack Catterall, and I mean no disrespect in this, in the kind of Lee Selby bracket. A very good fighter, but he's not going to put butts in seats, no matter what he does. And I think that he had a chance, and so did Josh Taylor, after their fight last year to make hay while the sun was shining and run it back in the summer or the autumn. They didn't. And it stalled Jack Catterall's career, and I think Jack Catterall, Obviously, there's a lot of cracks at Boxer. I think that's fair to say because he never even made his. He signed with Boxer, never even made his debut, and then jump ships to Matchroom. There's obviously a lot of cracks behind the scenes at Boxer. There has to be. Well, your fighters not even making their Boxer debut yet, and they're already saying, well, not saying, but they're already jumping ship. There has to be some cracks there behind the scenes. There has to be. You know, even fighters who go to Queensbury, even if they don't intend on staying, they still at least make their debut and try something. But Boxer, you're having fighters who are going and instantly leaving. There's obviously something going on there. Sanchez versus Zhang, I got Sanchez on points probably. I feel if Zhang fought, or sorry, Fury fought Zhang, would have to climb off the canvas. Oh, it's possible. I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, look at the way Adam Aleem was able to land left hands on Fury. I mean, if you let Zhang do that, you're going to have problems. I also don't understand why he's putting the Toma so high on the undercards good up, because he's putting a lot of money probably into a Toma, and he wants to try and break that Mike Tyson record. He wants to get people aware. So eyes on a Toma, have him high up the card, have been feeble. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And that was such a good win against the Jagba. I remember the majority were picking a Jagba. I wasn't. I was saying Frank Sanchez every day is going to beat a Jagba. I'd like to see Chisora just go out and just call it a day, but wouldn't shock me. That's a good question. That's a good question. I would probably still favour him over Bacoli, but that's a very good question. Yeah, I know. I hope that, you see, here's the problem, right? If it's Beterbiev Bivol really there's a time to get it over the line, and it's now, because Bivol has plenty of time. Beterbiev doesn't. Beterbiev probably has a year, realistically, of being anywhere near his best, and then it's gone. You know? Be like that scene in South Park with the banker. Okay, we've got a very, very big punching light heavyweight, physically strong, in his athletic prime, and it's gone. What's gone? His prime, it's gone. It's gone. He's going to get battered by Bivol. It's gone. Who should Yard fight next, given the Buatsi fight ain't happening? Talk of Joe Smith Jr. Would I take that? Risky, but might be a risk worth taking. Joe Smith's not fought since he got blasted out by Beterbiev. Yeah, it looked a good atmosphere. The arena is small enough, but when it's packed, it looked good. I've never been into the Cop-Out. I've walked past it a few times. Hackney Wick is lovely. It's very nice. It's right next to Stratford. They're both lovely places. And I will go to a show there eventually. I'd like to get to another show. Maybe I have a good rapport. I like the OVO arena. I like Wembley. So maybe if Warrington is fighting over in the OVO, I might decide to just say F it and do another trip over. I don't know. We'll see. The old Matchroom connections. Ha 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 ha. The old Matchroom connections. Vintage Loma. He is just remarkable. He really is. You know what, right? Gassiev, it's probably injuries. A lot of it's injuries. But you forget the fact Gassiev's not even 30 yet. I mean, imagine that. He looks it. Believe me, he looks it. People be like, Luis Ortiz isn't 43, and of course he's not. But you look at more Gassiev and you're like, he's 29. You're like, what? He's 29, so he's got a bit of time there. Have you ever seen other promoters in person? If so, how they come across? Met Warren. Hearn, I haven't, well, I've not met him as in like, hey, how are you? But I've met Hearn, and he came across as an absolute, well, Warren, you get the impression, don't talk to him unless you're media. That's the kind of vibes he gives. It's like, unless you're media, don't come up and ask him for a picture. Don't do that. Whereas Hearn, it's just like anyone can come up. He's approachable. He is more approachable. That's one thing I've seen firsthand. He is more approachable. Just anyone was just like, hey, mate, picture with. I wasn't getting any pictures with him, but other people were, and he was just, and he was kind of like, you could tell he felt bad, like, because he was like, look, it was the way in. He's like, I have to get to the weigh-in, so sorry, I can't take any more. Whereas Warren, it's just, you get the impression, just unless you're media, and realistically, unless it's like he kind of gives you the okay, don't approach him. He has that kind of look to him, just a kind of real, one of those teachers in school who has one of those kind of, don't you talk to me until I say. It's kind of one of them. Yeah, reading the book. I mean, Jesus Christ, mate, how they had him ahead is beyond me. Big up to E Machine. If dodgy cards are always incompetent, perhaps Ralph Smith needs to demote the judges. Well, you see, there you go. There it is again. It's like, if you say incompetence, where's the repercussions for said incompetence? It really is like the way the government can be, like where the government will say, mistakes were made. All right, well, what action are you going to take with the people who've made said mistakes? Nothing. And it's like that in boxing. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Mistakes were made. All right, well, what's going to happen? Nothing. And that same person is going to have, and Ian John Lewis obviously did have problems, but for the most part, there isn't any. Like Terry O'Connor has to be one of the worst judges in the sport, and he's still judging. So great to see a content creator interact with the community. You seem to have a good time too. Love the positivity. Yeah, I enjoy it. I do. I like doing the lives. I can't wait to do the watch along on Saturday. It's gonna be. I cannot wait. Oh, lads, I can't wait for that fight for Garcia Lopez, Garcia Tank. Sorry, I can't wait. The Corrales Castillo fight tells me that Joyce was stopped way too early. That's a very good example. It's a very good example. Fury fights in Beijing, London, New York, Macau, Singapore, all places big. Yeah, I mean, I would say Macau probably be a very, very good payment place. Very good. Fury can't get into the States at the minute because of the whole El Chapahan situation. What do you think of Navan in County Meath? I've only ever driven through Navan, so I can't really say. I've never really been in it. So I can't really comment on. I've never been really. Catro should be stripped of his boxing license. Interesting, man. Big up to Neural. Hello, Sir G-Man. Who do you think, Sir G-Man? Yeah, sir. Not playing G-Man, sir. Who do you think Atelma should... How do you think Atelma would do against Zhang right now? Probably not well. I'd be favouring Zhang. But might be a step up maybe in about 8 months with the right step-ups. You never know. I'm going to go with Zhang. To be fair, that was because Taylor didn't want to fight him. Didn't help. No, you're right. Didn't help. But surely Cattrall could have had a run out as well. Claim to fame was that he spoiled his way through the Taylor fight and lost. Officially, he lost. I thought he won, but we'll never know the rematch. I think Josh Taylor would have won the rematch legit. I do think that. Yes, definitely. I'm going to go with Inoue on points. I was thinking late stoppage, but I'm going to go with Inoue on points. What do you think of Kid Austin, the next best star? I haven't seen him. I can't say. I still don't understand why. Neither do I. I mean, that to me is just like, what the hell? Like, they seem to be overreaching with their checkbook and signing fighters for the sake of it. Like, really, like, I've nothing against the Coley, but what the hell? Like, really? A Coley? And I'd say after the first fight, Ben Shalom was sat there like, what have I just done? And it's bizarre, I don't know. I would. Man, Keyshawn Davis is something else. Is that the kid you always see on the YouTube shorts? I haven't a breeze. I never really watch a lot of shorts. What era would you say had the best fighters, 90s or this era? I would say the 90s, definitely. But this era is still good. You have your Bowes, your Holyfields, your Lewises, your Tysons, Foremans. Even if you look at the contenders, you have your Tommy Morrisons. I know he won a version of a title, Ray Mercers. I mean, these were powerhouses. I can't, but just retire. Please. Why? Like, you made enough money. Why? Like, just why? After his return, you think Vodset does good against the top heavyweights? Well, he's not fighting a heavyweight. He was 185 pounds in that fight, so I think he's trying to get back down to light heavyweight. He'd get absolutely splattered against heavyweights. He's not a heavyweight. No, I'm not going to it. I'm not even going to go for press credentials, to be honest with you, mate, because I don't know. I'd rather go to shows in the UK. Obviously, like if Ade and all are over here, I'd be happy. I'll meet up with them if they want to show them a few places outside of Dublin City that are good to go. But in terms of the show, nah, I'm probably not going to go. It's not too late to apply for press passes. In fact, actually, it's too early. But I'm probably not going. Probably not. Most American talk about Anderson, but I think Yalaloff. Yeah, Yalaloff is he's legit. I mean, he is legit. I love that, but I can't see Bivol Baturbiev. I can't. Yeah, it's a great. Doesn't have a bad view. Yeah, it looks brilliant on TV. It really does. It really, really does. Have you seen the Joseph Vinton documentaries on most top boxers, past and present? They're unbelievable. No, I haven't. Must have a look at that. Hey, man, who do you think would be best opponent for Otelma next? I would take a stab in the dark and put him in there with someone like a Sakalowski. I think Sakalowski will expose holes in these kids. Well, kids, I mean, some of them are in their late 20s, but Otelma, I think he'd be okay with that. I think he wants to step up, so go on. We can let's step him up. If he wants, if he thinks he's ready, let's do it. Let's step him up. If someone's visiting Dublin for the first time, where would you recommend a place to visit? Definitely the Guinness Storehouse. Definitely, it's good fun. Guinness Storehouse, definitely. Lovely views there. If you're in the city, I mean, there's loads of places, really. You have Stephen's Green, places like that. If you're looking at actual sites, if you want to see some of the nicer places, like outside the city, there's a seaside town called Malahide, which it's actually only 5 minutes away from me, which is lovely. Has a lot of pubs, a lot of nice restaurants, lovely view of the sea. There's a place a little bit further north in Dublin called Skerries. Has one of my favourite restaurants called Blue Bar. One of my favourites. Has got a lovely view up here with the sea. Places like that. So it's lots of really, really nice places like that. Guinness Storehouse is always good fun. And, you know, there's not really any bad places to go in Dublin City. It's full of life. But I don't really like... Dublin City is, for me, it's probably just because it's hard to get back to Swords. It's expensive, but I don't really tend to go out there too much. The modern heavyweights talents there, it's just that they're not fighting each other enough. Exactly. I'd probably edge Wadley in that fight. Despite him not winning a heavyweight title, GOAT was Ike Ibeabuchi, biggest waste of talent in boxing history. The president, Ibeabuchi, I mean, he would have absolutely... It would have been so interesting to see him if he'd stuck around. He would have definitely... Him against Lennox Lewis would have been amazing. Oh, that would have been absolutely unreal. The president versus Lewis, that would have been amazing. Do you think Garcia has in him? No, I think he's got plenty. I think it's going to be a competitive fight the whole way through. Them docs on YouTube been binging. I haven't seen any. Wadley versus Tuma. Again, probably too big a step up. I'll just say, no, I probably wouldn't do it just yet. But in a couple of months, you don't know. Yeah, I'll probably be out this Saturday, so I probably won't be watching it live. But yeah, it's a decent card. Kevin Johnson will be a great learning fight. Be another good one as well. Kevin Johnson's not as durable these days, but be a good learning fight. Do you think a prime Mike Tyson would have beaten Tyson Fury? Hard to say. I mean, Mike Tyson never fought anyone the size of Tyson Fury. Like, what would you say? Tony Tucker or Bone Crusher Smith? They'd be kind of the bigger guys he fought, and Tyson Fury's still bigger than those. So it's hard to say. Like, and Mike Tyson, you know, it's not like it's rocket science how to shut Mike Tyson down. You know, he's 5'10". He's given away almost a foot in height. You know, Tyson Fury, you could keep that at range, wrap him up when he gets in close. You know, yeah, Tyson Fury or Mike Tyson has better speed than anyone probably Tyson has fought. But still, like, I mean, the sheer, like, Tyson Fury's got to have, what, probably 50, 60 pounds on him, nearly a foot in height, and, at least 10 inches in reach. Tyson Fury, if he just boxes and just wraps him up, what can Tyson do? He can't do anything. So I probably would just edge Tyson Fury in that fight, yeah. What man know? KFC, McDonald's pizza, or Subway, Indian or Chinese? Probably pizza. That'd be mine. He tried to actually fight Andy Ruiz a couple of years ago. I think Bob Arum was trying to make the fight, but he violated his parole, if I remember correctly. And I remember Andy Ruiz was the top ranked fighter at the time, and they were trying to do a Bayabuchi versus Ruiz. And big up to Adam. Big up every time. Every life he donates, he's got the bag, ain't he? I need to update the intros. I've been using them too long now. I need to get the intros updated. But yeah, that's one of my better ones. That's one of my more fun ones. Most orthodox boxers, in your opinion? Interesting. I wonder how his chin's going to be after that fight, though. That's crazy. Yeah, very, 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 very different. I mean, Valaev is just... you gotta have him up there as one of the worst heavyweight champions of all time. If you've ever watched Marcelo Dominguez, a 5'9" cruiserweight, he couldn't miss. Imagine this: a 5'9" cruiserweight over 8 rounds fought Valaev, and he couldn't miss him with the right hand. Over a 5'9" cruiserweight, and that actual Marcelo Dominguez got knocked out in his, I think it was his next fight, got knocked out badly against Enzo Macronelli. And he went the distance and arguably bet Valaev as well, by the way. Be surprised if the Saudis go near Fury after he messed him about with AJ fight back. Yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, that's actually a very, very good point. Would they be willing to work with him? I know, but early Peekaboo was a thing to behold. It was. And big up to you, Halle Bean. Mike Tyson hit Andrew Galata so hard he broke the vertebrae in his neck. Tyson would have eaten Tyson Fury alive. See, I doubt that. I doubt he would have, because again, we don't know. It's subjective, but he never fought anyone that big. And Tyson Fury, if he fights a good big man fight, he could look. I would give Mike Tyson definitely a chance. You never know, but I haven't seen it, but like, he is asking for trouble. That's what I will say, because he's already got banned twice there. So if he keeps using those, if he keeps doing that, he is going to get absolutely... That channel's going to get shut. Gone. Those intros are iconic at this stage. Yeah. 5'9" versus 7 foot. Go on, it's on YouTube. Marcelo Dominguez, former cruiserweight champion. I think he's Panama. He was from Panama, is Marcelo Dominguez. And was actually a good cruiserweight back in the day. But at that stage, he was, I think, about 220, 230 pounds. So he was fat. And it was just bizarre because the height difference was ridiculous. And he couldn't miss with the right hand on Valaev. And then he got his weight down in his next fight, fought Enzo Macronelli, who was a WBO champ at the time. And he got knocked out in the 9th round. I think it was an uppercut that did him. Yeah, Prince Patel, I don't rate that highly, but that would be fun. Just to build up everything. Eddie Hearn will probably do that fight. Do you know that? He would. And that, look, I'm not going to lie. I'll take it. I'll watch it. I'd 100% watch it. You got me invested in it. It'd be fun. The back and forth would be fun. Beat Joyce, but he won't beat Doris and Betty. Tyson has a poor engine. He has to clinch to get a rest. Iron Mike would not have allowed Tyson to rest. But likewise, you could say Tyson Fury wouldn't have allowed Tyson to rest when he wanted to. I mean, that was one of the reasons Douglas was able to have so much success, was that the silent contract, as the saying goes. When Tyson would be in a clinch and he was taking his time and he was resting, his opponents wouldn't work. So they'd almost say, right, the silent contract, I'm not going to do anything and you're not going to do anything. Whereas Douglas was the opposite. He made Tyson work when he didn't want to. And you have to look at James Douglas. That's the blueprint. Douglas has a longer reach. I think he had an 80-something inch reach, 6'4". Again, Fury, way bigger. So I probably would edge Fury. Taking a Fury today when making these matchups. Problem is that he's no longer in his physical prime, miles on the clock. Yeah, I don't think he's definitely not in his prime. I remember that. I remember watching that fight. That was the best George Foreman looked aesthetically in his comeback. He was to the 230s. It's the only time he was in the 230s in his comeback. And he looked more like the George Foreman of his younger days. Dwight Muhammad Cowie against George Foreman. That height difference was comical. Dwight Muhammad Cowie was a very small cruiserweight. Didn't he go 15 with Holyfield? Dwight Muhammad Cowie. Zhang signs with Coinsbury, yeah. I'd have my money on Usyk versus Zhang. He is mandatory for Usyk now. He is actually, he's mandatory for Usyk. He'd be too quick and slick. He'd wear Zhang. Oh yeah, I'd be picking Usyk definitely. But he is mandatory, so you never know. You never know. People need to stop with the nostalgia over Mike Tyson. Yeah, he was really good, but Fury is another breed of size. It's remarkable, really, the way you had Mike Tyson when he was making. Remember when he made those clips of him hitting the pads and stuff like that, and people were saying he could come back now and be a good heavyweight and stuff. And it's like he got beat by Kevin McBride in his last fight in a competitive fight. Kevin McBride was not a top heavyweight in the 2000s when the era was very weak. He'd be an absolute punching bag today if he was around. That was years prior. Years prior. I don't know, man. I really couldn't tell you. I don't want to know. Gave Holyfield a nightmare for 50 rounds, but got clinched in the rematch in 4. Yeah, Holyfield, a cruiser, man. You look at the cruiserweight division when Holyfield was champion. There was some good guys there. He does. Lost the McDermott fight, but was gifted the decision. Yeah, I thought he lost. Ali versus Zhang. You got my boy Ali every day. I don't know. It really is a good question to me. Really is. Yeah, he was past his. Tyson was never the same. Probably after about 1990, round about then. And then obviously, long thereafter, he just wasn't the same. By the time he fought Williams, I mean, he'd been stopped badly by Holyfield. He'd been disqualified by Holyfield. He'd been knocked out by Lennox Lewis. He was done. He was well and truly done. And he lost Danny Williams, then lost to McBride. The very notion that he could fight in 2020, 2021, and still be anything near the Mike Tyson of old was just, it was remarkable to me, really. I remember when Stavern won his title, and there was a bit of talk about, he's with Don King. Could Mike Tyson fight Stavern? You people saying, Mike Tyson beats Stavern easy. It's like, I know Stavern was not a good champion, but it's like, this is Mike Tyson, who what we're talking about a decade earlier, who would have been in his probably early 50s, maybe late 40s, early 50s, hadn't fought in a decade. And it's like, he is not going to beat Bermain Stavern, even at his worst. That's a good question. I would still go with Roy. If it was the prime Roy Jones at cruiserweight against Usyk, I'd go with Roy, because Roy was just something else. I mean, prime Roy Jones is the most gifted fighter you will ever see in terms of athleticism. It was when you look at it, right? When you go back and look at his highlights, I remember the first time I'd ever seen Roy Jones's highlights, and I'd seen loads of fighters. Like I'd seen Canelo, I'd seen loads. I knew who Roy Jones was, but I never looked at his highlights. And I remember the first time I seen his highlights, my jaw just dropped, because I'd seen fighters' highlights: Mike Tyson, Foreman, Ali, everyone, and I hadn't seen Roy Jones for a long time before. Well, obviously I hadn't seen his highlights at all, and I'd seen loads of others. So I've been following boxing religiously for about over a year. I've never seen his highlights. When I seen them, my jaw just dropped. I was like, this is not normal, how good this guy is, and how just, it was crazy. So Roy Jones, I definitely will be picking Roy Jones over Usyk. Maybe that's just bias because I love Roy Jones. Zhang has been avoided. Eddie Hearn signed him to stop AJ fighting him. Same thing he did with Ortiz. Roy Jones, I remember, against Richard Hall. One of his best performances as well. Wonder if we'll get, oh Jesus, no. Let's try and not get that. 95 in the building. If you could smash the like button. Ideally, I'll get over 50 likes by the time we call it. And we've already got over 50. So let's get it close to 100, lads. Let's get the likes up to near the 100 mark. Because, we want to do well on these lives. We want to get some good numbers, Help your boy get to 20k. Who do you think is the world champion? who used the most steroids? Tommy Morrison, probably. I mean, he was using them his whole career. I don't think apparently he never fought a fight without them. In fact, actually, apparently, if he hadn't been using them, then he would have been a cruiserweight. So I would say Tommy Morrison, definitely. It's a very, very famous story that broke. I think it was 2015 when that story broke. Remarkable, really. Tommy Morrison used them his whole career from start to finish. Hence the reason probably why he was hitting so hard and why he was so muscly. But Tommy Morrison will probably be the main guy back in the day. He did go downhill. I remember him losing. Yeah, that was... I don't watch Roy Jones post. Like, the only fight I've watched post Ruiz is the Tarver fight, the first one. And I wanted to watch it because people were saying he lost it. No, he didn't. Go back. He clearly won that fight. It was the fact it was competitive. It was competitive. But you go back and watch Tarver Jones won. Roy clearly won that fight. Like, there's no dispute. Like, it was a competitive fight. You could say it was an 8-4 type of fight, but to say it was a robbery, no. And Roy at his peak beat Joe Calzaghe definitely every day of the week. Roy Jones at his peak is the closest thing I've seen to an unbeatable fighter, yet lost an 8-rounder to a man having his debut only 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I know, it's a sad story. That is just, for me, just, what do you do? No. I reckon Morrison is probably the number one. Although Big Pharma could definitely challenge him. He's got some competition there. Yeah, I mean, like, I love Calzaghe. I absolutely love Calzaghe. I love Joe Calzaghe so much. He's just one of my favorite fighters. But Roy would just have... No, Roy was different caliber. No, I think if anything, he's largely underrated. You know, Calzaghe is an amazing fighter. He really was. I mean, people be like, Carl Froch would have got battered from pillar to post easy by Joe Calzaghe. He would have got battered up and down the ring by Joe Calzaghe. At the height of his career, Leonard was spending... Yeah, remember, Leonard had some problems. There's a lot of problems with fighters back in the 80s. Remember Biggs. Biggs was spending, what, 1,500 quid a day or something like that, Tyrell Biggs on crack. Crazy. Not to say if he hadn't been, his career would have gone any better, but he could have done a bit more with his career because he was finished. He was finished by, what, his 10th, probably less, probably like 7th or 8th pro fight. He was done in terms of physically. I've always thought Calzaghe is overrated in the UK and underrated in the US. He is underrated in the US. I'm a bit biased because Joe Calzaghe, again, was just... Calzaghe knew different. That's why he ducked Froch. He didn't duck Froch. Calzaghe went to America, went up to light heavyweight, fought Hopkins. Hopkins went on to win a world title after it. The Jones fight, yeah, okay, that was Roy Jones past his best. But the Hopkins fight, yeah, it was close. But Hopkins went on to win a world title straight after. Yeah, I think even Chisora at this stage could still hang with Big John. No problem. No problem. People, we've just gone over the hour here. We've just gone over the hour. I only planned on doing 40 minutes, but what can I say? I enjoyed it. It was a good chat. So there's 100 of you still in the building, 101 now. Smash the like button on the way out. Of course, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Lads, we'll try and get a video out tonight for tomorrow morning. But for now, I'll leave you with that. I hope you have a great evening. I'll talk to you all. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to Joe. Shout out to everyone who's been in here. Shout out to anyone who donated. I appreciate that as well. For now, lads, I'm going to talk to you. I'll call it there. Peace out.